Unless you plan for your characters to show only one expression per shot, at some point you're going to need to practice animating a change in emotion. If you're just starting out, I'd recommend first focusing only on the face, paying attention to the brows, eyes, nose, and mouth, and how you want to move them to reach the next expression. Quickly and in sync, slowly and one at a time, or do you need another expression as a middle point between the two? This first exercise builds on the eye animation we worked on in the last lesson. I've made a couple of prompts to get you started, and I've chosen excited to scared to demonstrate this first exercise. So to get from this to this, I could make a new frame in between the two and redraw the expression like this with everything spaced exactly in the middle. If I time it out, giving the first and third frames enough time for the viewer to register the expression, it looks fine, but it doesn't really have a lot of impact. So, to improve the animation, I'm going to add a new frame and adjust the eyelids and eyebrows, dragging them up a little with TVPaint's warp tool. You can erase bits and redraw them, or use whatever select and move tools you have in your preferred animation program. Then I want to make the mouth a little wider. You'll notice there's not a lot of space between these drawings, so this movement is going to be quite subtle, but I think still effective as we ease in to the movement. If you're animating each part of the face on different layers, you can stagger the timing of the frames so they hold for different lengths. If an animation is more complicated and the eyes are blinking and we have lip sync, I will separate the layers to make it easier to time everything out, and I don't have to constantly redraw everything. Next, I want another frame between these two, and I'm going to adjust the pupils, make them a little smaller, and then redraw the mouth. And then we have our final pose, which is not our final frame because after this I've added in just a slight movement with the select and move tools. So I've moved the eyebrows down slightly and then the mouth moves down as well. Now if you look at this, you'll notice that the mouth goes down a little bit. I haven't moved the jaw. That's a personal preference of mine. Some animators, especially if you're working with rigs or anything like that, you can add in movements for the jaw. So obviously when the mouth opens, the jaw is going to drop down, but I tend to leave the head shape as sort of like a solid object. But that's up to you and your art style for however you want to do it. So if we play this through, you'll see this movement looks a lot better. Now I'll put them side by side so you can see the two. And this will be your first task, is to animate an expression change from one expression to the next. For the second exercise, we can include some head movement. A character who feels sad, ashamed, or shy may lower their head. If they are suspicious, confused, or curious, the head could tilt to the side. And if they're angry, proud, or shocked, their head may tilt up. Of course, there are exceptions to this, and your end result will change depending on your character's personality and their situation. For this exercise, I want you to consider the timing and spacing, and whether you want a slow transition from one expression to another, or something quicker. If you try both, it's always good to compare the two and see if there's anything you might change if you do it again. If you like the way your animation looks from the first exercise, you can save another version, merge the layers, and move the head to complement the expression. With this first frame, I'm going to move it down a little, then move along one frame and create an in-between for these two. I'll use the onion skin to find a middle point and use the move tool to adjust the frame, so the head will move up evenly to push into this excited expression. The frame will hold, and then I want to keep the next frame in the original position and then adjust the rest to move down as the mouth opens. You can experiment with the spacing here and have a subtle move down, or increase the spacing between each drawing for something a little more dramatic. And then the head goes up a little because we move from here You have the mouth closed, we go down quite a lot, and then we go up again. So it's like a slight bounce. Like you're settling into the movement and then you're coming back up to rest. And we have, again, a long hold for this position so we can really register that expression. Now, if you wanted to really push this further, you could add in a little bit of pupil shake, which is very common in cartoons and anime especially. So with this task, I really want you to focus on one of these prompts, or you can do multiple and see how far you can push it till you've got something you're happy with. So for this next animation, we have a neutral look that is then going to move to a more focused expression. But I also want to include a head move, and it's like a head tilt, which I think will make this expression a lot more effective. In most animation programs, you can use the transform tool to move and rotate your frames. In TVPaint, I'm adjusting the pivot point of the transform to make sure that the drawing rotates from the base of the head. There are so many ways you can animate this exercise, and after you've completed one, you could then think about changing the speed of the head tilt. So if you tried slow, you could make another test with a fast movement. Think about how this would affect the hair or any other accessories you wanted to add. How would straight hair compare to curly hair, to a ponytail, to braids? I'm going to change my brush color, and on a new layer above, I'll focus on animating each section of hair one by one, rather than trying to do it all at the same time. With the first piece complete, I can use that as a reference for the movement of the other sections. To clean up, I'm just making another layer above, lowering the opacity of my rough layer, and lining the hair in the same colour as the eyes to make it look a little more polished. Then, to finish off the animation, I decided to add in a blink at the end here, which I covered in a previous lesson. For our third exercise in this lesson, adding context to a basic prompt or animating to a scenario can give you a little creative boost if you're feeling stuck. You might have seen acting challenges or videos like this, where the creator is reacting to the audio in two different ways, by adding extra notes at the top and showing you how this small change affects the character's reaction. I've included a couple of examples with my animation files, which you can check out through the link in the description. So if you want to give this a go yourself, I'd recommend picking a prompt from my list, or choosing an audio clip and acting out the expression or action and filming yourself to use as a reference. You don't have to show anyone. It does feel a little embarrassing at first, but I know I always feel much more confident in the poses, timing, and expressions if I have a guide. I've created some prompts with variations you can use to practice. If you want a bit more of a challenge, you can add the torso or animate the full body of your character and think about how they would stand, move between poses, and how their body language could complement the animation in the face. You could then add in props or a background. I chose the food tastes bad for the next animation example, and you can go through my animation sequence for free, but there is an extra video on my YouTube members and Patreon where I talk through the process as I animate. For our final task in this lesson, and if you need something more than a written prompt, you can try animating to audio. Clips from shows, podcasts, and short videos can help you pin down the timing and focus more on the acting if there is already something to reference. This can take a lot of the pressure off, especially if you're struggling with motivation or ideas. I used a clip from Brittany Broski to animate to. My character is just settling down to sleep. The audio says, "Shut your little eyes," which they do. It's then followed by, "I'm coming," and a laugh, which sounds a little like a threat, so I made the eyes pop open wide in fear. If you make your own animations from any of these exercises, feel free to tag me. I would love to see what you make. I hope you had fun with this how to animate. For more animation tutorials and tips, check out this playlist, and I'll see you in the next lesson.